It's kind of nice, Gio, that with the way that the games have been sort of set or drawn or decided, that we get similar games at similar stages in each stage. So, like, this is the first game that we had last stage on the Super Week Sunday. And here we are again, stage number 2, and it's the same. So it's kind of nice in that regard. It's not always identical, but quite often there is a little bit of a similarity there. And we get the same map this time.
Does that mean that we finish on a liquid MIBR Oregon? Because
potentially.
That was great. That was a great game.
I think the simulation would be confirmed then, wouldn't it? We would definitely be living inside of a simulation. But yeah. Jokes aside, let's see what we've got here. We've got a lot of pressure on the hard breach, as is the norm, really, or I guess as used to be the norm. Thatcher going to be available, though. Maverick, Hibana, both removed. Valkyrie and Mute gone also. A pretty standard set of bans. I'm not really looking at that and going and raising too many eyebrows. And that's all sort of stuff. So it may be the Valkyrie for a clubhouse. Whilst we do see it played, there are other ops that tend to get banned. So,
well, FaZe banned Hibana and Valkyrie when they were playing against W7M the other day. So clearly these are just standard bans now for FaZe Clan. This is what they want to go for on Clubhouse. So I can understand, yes, there is the argument, maybe not the most standard ban for Clubhouse. There are certainly other operators that you could go for. However, this is very specifically that FaZe Clan pick, I suppose.
Well, FaZe going to be starting off here on the attack. As you mentioned, Gio, cameraman sort of alluded to the fact that he reckons Clubhouse is getting a little bit more attacker-sided. I think that it's something that is happening as well, and it's worth a discussion, because typically we do see teams getting a good number of rounds on the attack now. I think as the map becomes more played out and more well-known, it really does just become one of those things where there are more opportunities for attackers, and especially with changes to things like ADSs or whatever it might be, Malusi Banshees, there are going to be those opportunities there a little bit more forthcoming. So let's see if FaZe can take a bit of advantage of that here.
Gym and bedroom is going to be the first site to be visited by FURIA. We're seeing Mira increasingly be more popular a pick as well of late. When I say of late, it's not like it's just happened in the last couple of weeks, but just as she's dropped out of favor in ban, she's become a bit more favored in picks because she's available. And especially on a site like this where you want to be looking out for what's happening on either side of the site. You want to be watching for a push coming in from the east side. You want to be watching out through Jacuzzi. Maybe you want to be facilitating someone who's in bathroom. We've seen teams use the mirror window as well in logistics. There are lots of really viable places that you can use those windows. Souls is getting going here on the Jacuzzi wall with the exothermic charges. And it's just Miracle over in logistics. You maybe trying to take a couple of shots out of the breach hole. Now notice as well, the logistics hatch hasn't been opened just yet, but that is also going to have to be something that he bears attention to, as FaZe Clan will likely look to pressure it.
The Jacuzzi wall getting open there in good time, and now we see Bullet making a bit of an approach through Garage. We've got Fantasy playing in cash, and he's got a couple of reinforced walls to work with. Bullet now starting to open up a couple of lines of sight. Cyber on the prowl as well. Enough pressure to see Furia dip out. Fantasy's actually got himself back into bedroom now. FaZe seemingly just waiting for a call until they blow this breach. They've become very keen on these sort of coordinated takes lately, and that's essentially what we're seeing here and now, as we do get a bit of an aggressive flood on in. Nobody left inside of cash though, so that control has now been given over to FaZe.
Miracle is kind of pinned here behind the desk because FaZe Clan, very akin to what they did back on Friday, have really prioritized of taking construction control. They did a breach onto the external construction wall, and we did see them move in through the CCTV and cache area, which wasn't particularly heavily fortified from Furia either, despite the fact that Furia as a team generally like to go for extensions. Miracle does get a kill onto Astro, but immediately ready to be traded means that FaZe Clan can take swift control of logistics and push on through into the site. Lender's just got to try and get aggressive, but Cyber right outside the door, there wasn't really much he could do.
Well executed attack there from FaZe. I think they really knew what they were going to be going up against there. They've got that sort of I'm hesitant to call it a new style take because I'm sure it's been done before, but it's something that we're seeing FaZe do a little bit more often now, whereas previously they would attempt to take control in through the sort of garage and the CCTV room, but now they like to go in through construction. And it really does split the sort of extension and the defense in half by doing that, especially when you still have pressure coming in from that side. I don't know why it's just crossed through my mind, Gio, but one of the teams that I always think of being really good and successful of defending gym and bedroom on Clubhouse is NIP. They play that shield at the top of cash stairs. You've usually got Muzi playing there or Psycho. There's a Wamai. There's usually a lot of utility that's been invested into that. And now, all I want to see now is I just want to see FaZe attack that NIP defense and see then what happens, because it seems as though that's what it's been planned for, and it just conveniently sort of works for other teams that are going to be defending out there as well with less utility. But that little sort of cutting everything in half, it's working quite well for them. It worked against W7M and it worked there against FURIA.
Makes me wonder if FURIA employed something like an Aruni to use Surya gates on something like the master doorway, as well as maybe the logistics doorway as well, or the soft wall in logistics. If that would make it easier for them to hold back the swiftness of the push that FaZe Clan have been doing. Now, obviously, we're seeing people drop out the lobby right now, so I'm sure that's going to get sorted. But what we do know is that FURIA have come down to the basement for their next defense. Yeah, there we go. We're going to get a pause.
There we go. Yeah, it's... I think it's one of those situations where maybe they just don't want to go up against that attack again, honestly. Gym and bedroom, it's a great sort of... It's a great site to throw in there at first and see if you can try and catch anybody off guard, but ultimately FaZe were a little bit too well prepared for that. It's now time for FURIA to get themselves down into the site. Honestly, based off the lineup, it looked as though they were going to go relatively anchor heavy as well. We saw a Frost being brought, we saw a couple of things like that, so I would expect that we're going to see, a fairly well-fortified defense there for FURIA, and that they're not going to be trying to do anything too extravagant there out on the roam. Maybe a little bit of lurking, but the objective here is certainly going to be to get a couple of rounds on the board and not go down too far.
It's going to be an interesting one. I mean, let me just have a look at the game that FaZe played against W7M. So W7M defended Church and Arsenal twice, and FaZe Clan... Okay, so this was the one where FaZe Clan successfully not only attacked onto the site, but they got a plant on it as well. And a lot of that was to do with the fact that W7M's defense was very much focused over towards blue, and they kind of left the main stairs area open, and FaZe Clan went straight in for a rush. They completely exploited the flaw that was present in W7M's defense, and they took advantage of it. So they got a very fast plant, they got very early control of Church, and even though there was a lot of attention and still a lot of manpower up towards the other side of the site, by the time the FaZe Clan got in, it was actually kind of redundant for W7M at that point. So that doesn't necessarily mean that FaZe Clan are going to be able to do the same thing again here, and I would imagine that it's quite unlikely that they can. However, I would hope that FURIA have actually looked at that game and they've recognized that FaZe Clan are going to be very good at sniffing out those particular flaws in the defense, wherever it might be. Now, as you said, it looked like FURIA were going for a more anchor-heavy game, which is, it kind of leans into a point I was making on that first round as well, which is FURIA are a team who usually quite like extensions. They like roams. It doesn't seem too within their nature to be leaning so heavily into the anchoring.
Yeah, they're an aggressive team. They're going to try and take early gunfights and get advantages, and it's something that we saw very prevalent yesterday in the game that we saw FURIA play over against W7M. Two teams there that are very aggressive, that really want to try and get those early advantages. So I think we'll have to see how it goes. FURIA are obviously going to have to, figure out and see if it is going to be something that works for them. We do have all the players back inside of the lobby, so we thank you for bearing with us. We're going to throw on through when we've checked that everything is going to be up and running, but we're going to be headed back into round number 2. Of course, exactly where we left off. Going downstairs into the Church and Arsenal, everything will have to remain the same. So there is a Frost pick on the side of Furia that's going to have to be 6-picked onto. It was Fantasy that was playing on the Frost previously, so it would make sense for him to be the one to change across. There we go. Now, I've not particularly got a problem with this, Geo, but the Cade. Thatcher's not banned. What are we realistically going to be able to do with that Cade? Like, I understand that Hibana's not a thing, because Hibana got banned out, so impact tricking onto the hatch is viable, but it's surely just going to force FaZe into a bit of a different take.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where that's going to be used. I mean, the natural assumption, of course, would be that it'll be used on the hatch, notably the kitchen hatch. But I suppose they could use it on the church wall as well. I guess we'll have to see. The other thing that I'm curious about as well is that because Furia kind of presumably DC'd out of the lobby last time, they left tunnels soft. And FaZe Clan, or Astro rather, actually went to go and Selma it open. Now, presumably, that was because a lot of the players had left the lobby and they couldn't actually get there in time. I'm wondering if that will also be left soft once again, because if it is, FaZe Clan knows straight away that they have that route in. But if it simply was a case of Furia weren't intending to do it at all, I don't think they're allowed to do a different setup. So they may have to just leave that soft if it simply wasn't intended to be reinforced the first time round.
We were sort of hypothesizing about a sort of bit of anchor play, and we're not exactly getting the direct opposite, but already players for Furia are going to start to fall. Bullet opens things up off the back of some great drone work onto Fancy. Cyber a second onto Highs. And whatever roam or lurk game that Furia were looking to try and play has been defeated in the first minute. We do still have Rare inside of the bar. Going to be inside of the Vigil cloak, so Cyber going to get a read of that with his drone upstairs. Have a rough idea as to what's going on. This is a very familiar sight. Cameraman opening the hatch for Astro, but this time Astro is going to get sat down. Lender still at the top of main stairs, and now he has a chance at a second. Going to get himself into the engagement and find some success. Lender single-handedly bringing this back to a 3 versus 3.
This whole thing is so very bizarre because we were kind of right with both angles we took. Yes, these are more anchor operators, but they're all playing off-site. I mean, of course, you would expect that from the Vigil. Miracle's going to take a little bit of damage as one drops down Oil Pit. He's got to watch out for the blue stairs as well as towards Oil Pit. Now, usually you would see a Jaeger play down here, and they don't have one. So there aren't any ADSs to protect or anything like that. However, there also aren't any nades on the side of FaZe Clan. The worst they can really worry about is a smoke grenade, but it could still make Miracle quite vulnerable.
Lender successfully managed to get himself all the way back to sides. FaZe still trying to drone out here just to ensure that everything is in fact going to be safe. They've lost a couple of pieces of the puzzle. They've lost some of the hard breach. There we see the tunnel being left soft again. Will be just breached open, give Cyber an option for getting himself on in. Bullet going to give the game away there with a goo mine, and that's going to be the cue for Lender to start opening up a couple of angles to work this mirror window from. There isn't a great deal of time remaining here for FaZe, and they really have been run ragged inside of this round. Looking like a kitchen hatch drop could be on the cards with Bullet coming in the bottom of main. The information now available there for Lender. Going to go for the C4. It is going to land a little bit too far, but Rare is able to clean up that frag. And a second as he's going to storm his way on through. Miracle is going to grab the final kill on Long. Much better round there from Furia.
Well, I will stand corrected because I said that FaZe Clan probably wouldn't go for something similar to what they did before, but actually changing their tracks and deciding to head down main stairs is exactly what they did against W7M, and Furia were well prepared for it, not just because of the mirror window, but also the physical rotations that they made themselves. The C4 didn't get anything, but it didn't really matter because Rare was already aside, waiting to get the kill and do the follow-up. It was just so very interesting to me how we saw things, for example, up in storage. It's not often that Kaid is the operator who you would expect to see up there. So these operators that had been brought were not necessarily being played in the positions that you would expect of them. Kind of curious, just because, you know, one of the discussions that we had at the start of the round was, how is Kaid going to be used? Because, you know, Kaid tricking or whatever it might be is going to be a bit of a strange idea, given that Thatcher is in play. Well, Kaid tricking didn't happen, and Hayes actually didn't live long enough for it to have happened anyway, even if he wanted to. But he was playing so far off site and not necessarily in an area that you would expect of him. So it was... FURIA gave us some expectations that were dashed because they used these operators in kind of odd ways. But they're going to be heading back upstairs this time. Now, it's very similar operator lineup as well. Rare is back on Jaeger, which is, again, something I noted wasn't brought in that last round. Now, FaZe Clan was so adept at being able to attack onto this site last time, but Cameraman's going to be the first one to fall, another victim of Rare. And I think a lot of that soft destruction loss could come as quite a pain for them.
Well, it is, because Cameraman's relied upon to open those hatches for Astro to hot drop on into. Now, it isn't something that's always been successful, but it's something else that's going to require a little bit of an alternate approach. We are seeing Astro open up that east wall this time. Whether they're going to try and get the exterior construction wall open again will remain to be seen, but Rare, a player that has... really started to step himself up. Consider that he regularly plays more of a supporting style role, not quite as hard support as Miracle, but he's regularly the hard breacher on attack and seems to be transitioning into that flex player on the defense. Currently 3-0. Obviously we did have the short rehost, but only one round. Still, we're going to see an engagement here as the wall has been opened, but an angle initially can't be found. Astro eventually will finish off the job. Eyes has got a line of sight to try and work with there. The breach does look a little bit scuffed, though. I don't think that Astro was able to get that open cleanly.
Narrowly getting the drone. FURIA, of course, is going to be very aware that FaZe may be looking to drop down into logistics, but in fact, they've made this rotate round and paying a lot more attention over towards the jacuzzi wall. Bullet's droning himself in. We did see him in through garage. He opened that up with his lifeline last time, but I'm wondering if he's just going to look to hop through the windows so as to not necessarily alert Fantasy of his exact location with sound cues. He knows that he's there. Fantasy not necessarily shown up so much in this game so far, but he's going to have to be dealt with if Bullet is to move on through.
You got to look at this and feel that, although the man count is equal at the moment, that FURIA are in a significant advantage here. FaZe are currently waiting for FURIA to move. Fantasy will, but he's going to find the kill over onto Bullet. That now allows him to push on up a little bit more aggressively and maybe start to challenge onto players on the balcony. Rare's going to fall, but Fantasy continues his little bit of a tear. Lender, he's going to be the one to pick up that final kill from inside a gym. Little bit of an off angle, honestly. They've got the window behind you. You've always got to be concerned of that, but it's not going to matter at all. FURIA there, much more tempered, much more patient inside of that defense.
Yeah, well, FURIA definitely knew where FaZe's approach was coming from, and one of the big flaws in FaZe's strategy, which was kind of burst wide open at the very start, is that they very specifically rely on certain things going correct. So bringing Cameraman down so early really stunted the push that FaZe Clan wanted to make. They had to make these adaptations on the fly to make up for that fact. But when you consider the checkpoints of what it was they wanted to achieve back in round number 1, you know, we open up construction, we get into the logistics hatch, we take construction control at the same time as our player coming in through garage and clearing out the cache CCTV area. All of these things happened in really fast succession of one another back in round number 1. But all it took was the removal of one key operator very early in that last round for that to be entirely disrupted and FaZe Clan to be out of sync with one another and have to make these changes. So FURIA, I think, just did a really good job of reading into that. And of course, when you have that opening engagement, you can't necessarily guarantee it's going to be onto the player who has that much value. But for Rare to get it and for FURIA to realize how kind of fragile FaZe Clan's attack is, that was good foresight.
FaZe are certainly in that sort of mindset at the moment where they're really trying to fine-tune their gameplay, but it almost came at the cost in that previous round of, once you've lost a piece of the puzzle, struggling to adapt and get past that. So it's something to watch. It's something to be mindful of. You can't expect to not suffer an opening death in every single round, especially if things are held on that kind of fine margin. This time we have seen everybody successfully get themselves out of spawn, and nothing now could be classed as a cheeky run out. It would be more of a challenge, like we're going to see there from Lender. What is he thinking? Challenging on to Bullet like that. Quite rightly, Bullet picks up that kill. It's a nice little in. Some chip damage there being dealt in onto Astro. Rare's just going to be outside a kitchen corridor, looking to continue to threaten and pressure. Fantasy has a nice angle all the way through into stock as well, but Bullet's going to pick up his second. Takes down Rare. Some good information here being exchanged on the side of FaZe.
Fantasy is holding the angle very low down in garage. You can see that he's electrified the garage walls. So I suppose it sounds like Souls has opened up one of them. Perhaps he's running away from the garage door. It's not going to be the further north one. Yeah, so it must be the one on the south. But it hasn't actually deterred Fantasy, really. He's slowly moving back. There's a drone down there right in the doorway into lounge as well that he hasn't gotten rid of. So that's going to provide some really valuable information for FaZe Clan.
Well, information is something that FaZe have been very good at gathering inside of this round. Do they know where Fantasy is? That's the question. Cameraman goes for a bit of a shoulder peek. There's a multiple crossfires on his location here, but Fantasy gets away with taking down Cyber. The ADS going to keep him alive, but eventually Souls with the swing will do the job. Miracle now looking to try and hold on to that that window into garage. Babe canisters can start to cut things off. Highs with the aggressive drop. He has got the C4, so it does make a lot of sense. If site control is lost now, he could still have something to say in this round. Miracle edging ever closer toward the breach, just thinking better of it. Highs, I'm sure that he got a glimpse of the player there on the catwalk, but instead he's just going to look to try and pre-place his C4. Gets himself out of dodge, manages to rotate past the doorway. Soul's going to be the next player to fall. Miracle, what an important kill. The diffuser now going to be down. Nobody from the side of FaZe in a position to do anything about that. There's still a pre-placed C4 inside of CCTV. Highs is going to be below and to try and make something happen with that. He's also going to find the frag over onto Astro. Cameraman flooding in. 4 seconds. He's got to find a couple of kills. He comes over the top. Oh, he takes Highs out. The skeleton key there. Cameraman, what a clutch.
Oh, I love that we got to see that from the other perspective as well. So you really just you saw him come out of absolutely nowhere. FaZe Clan taking that back into, well, I don't quite want to say their favor now that it's evened up, but taking that back to win that round out, especially after Souls made that real vital mistake of over-peaking, I think, from outside of the server wall. I was really concerned because immediately FaZe kind of got to launch into this aggressive tirade because it's very unlikely they're going to be able to recover the diffuser. They put a lot of pressure onto those players of FURIA, and I think that one of the real weak spots for FURIA was Highs. I just, you look at Cameraman's reaction, I love it, he's so happy. Was Highs, you know, the way that he was playing in lounge, he so desperately wanted to make that C4 work. And it makes sense, you know, if you're going to be bringing an operator who has a C4 to defend CCTV and cache, in a lot of cases, you will want them to be playing in and around lounge, but it just wasn't super heavily defended or fortified to give him the room and the safety to do that, especially after Garage Rafters had been taken and Fantasy had been shifted from it. So for him to really riskily be darting in through these lines of sight, it made it very difficult for FURIA. Because FaZe Clan just had really solid control. So for them to kind of collapse in, I mean, would you expect anything less from FaZe Clan? Let's be real.
It's going to be a tough pill to swallow for FURIA, I think. That's a round that you really got to look back on and just sort of ponder and think what could have gone differently there. And multiple times, I mean, right up until the final second, it looked as though it was going to be a FURIA round, but alas, as Highs got an opportunity here, both FaZe players, they're going to go for the default. Highs, no, you can't miss your headshot onto Bullet like that. Cyber, he's going to punish you for it. Cyber and Bullet, some of the most dynamic fraggers inside of BR6. You can't afford to miss your shots against those boys. They will punish you for it. Poor start here for FURIA.
It's okay. It happens. We go again. Miracle's going to be pushing up into the dirt tunnel. Again, oil pit. That actually delivers a ton of damage into Rare as well. And you could tell that he knew someone was going to be down there. It's entirely similar to what FaZe Clan did back in round number 2. They sent someone down oil pit. It seems to be very characteristic of them. They'll poke and prod into blue, but not to make a really concerted effort to actually take it itself. That's when they make the rotation round. But you still need someone to be defending that area so that it's not open. And if Rare loses his life, it makes it easier for FaZe Clan to flood in and forego the need to actually make a rotation over to the other side of the site.
Well, Bullet going to be playing the patient game there, waiting for Rare to make his move. Cyber could look to try and approach this a little bit more directly. Rare really is only one shot away. One body shot at that. Conscious he's going to be getting droned now as well. There's some utility that could be used to try and root him out here, and he's still wasting a ton of time. A lot of intel up for FaZe. We can see plenty of red pings. The approach coming through dirt tunnel as well. It's only going to get harder for Miracle as eventually gets taken on down by Cyber. Rare still does manage to take out Bullet and make that rotation, so he could be in a position to really have something to say here. He's able to get the kill onto Cyber. That would really swing things here for FURIA. Manages to avoid all the stuns as well. Cyber is going to hit that swing, and he is going to fall. Fantasy. He's going to find the final 3 there. Everybody on the side of FaZe just lining up for him. He's making it look like a terrorist hunt here.
Oh, no way. I mean, I thought that he was looking the wrong direction at the very end. I didn't expect Fantasy to just swing in out of nowhere. All right, FURIA. I see you. And, you know, so far, no plants. There hasn't really been much objective play whatsoever in this game.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see a plant between these two today, Gio.
It wouldn't really shock me. There's only one more chance, though, for FaZe Clan to even things out at the half. And this is very interesting, given that this is a team that said, we think that Clubhouse is becoming more attacker-sided. They had a really good time on their attack when they were playing against W7M, but FURIA are making it considerably harder for them. So, got one more opportunity to do this. Again, back to gym and bedroom, and I mean, this is the site where back in round number 3, FaZe Clan had a pretty tough time after losing cameraman early. It pretty much meant they had to entirely change the momentum of their round. They couldn't just open up logistics hatch in the way that they had. They had less reinforcement in being able to attack into construction, how they have seemed to like to in recent times. I think Bullet, when he was trying to push solo through CCTV and cache, relying on his own drones, he was a little bit out of sync with what was going on elsewhere as everybody else decided to rotate round towards the jacuzzi wall. So, I mean, hopefully for FaZe Clan, they don't, you know, lose someone really early that disrupts that entire process for them. Because if they do, I don't know if you're going to have something much different.
Well, this time Cameraman's actually been able to get himself on in. Going to be inside a strip. Fancy quite aggressively there, already peeking out of one of the holes that's been made inside of that east wall. I think the confidence is sort of brimming on both of these sides right now, and really does look set for either team to run away with this one. Momentum-wise, we've seen a very good and explosive finish to a round from Cameraman. We've seen the same from FURIA. I think both teams feeling fairly confident. Maybe someone that has been a little bit quiet could be Astro, one of the highest rated players currently inside of BR6, and in this game isn't having the greatest of impacts. That isn't always a bad thing for FaZe. Typically, if we see him do exceptionally well, he can get himself caught out in over-aggressive situations, but maybe just going to look for a little bit more here. A slower approach from FaZe to what we've seen previously. It doesn't necessarily suggest they're going to try something different, but I think they're just recognizing that a 2-4 split probably isn't ideal here.
Well, it's going to be paramount for them to clear out logistics, given the placement of this mirror window. The C4 doesn't catch anybody out. There's a lot of presence here still on Jacuzzi. Cameraman's just... Okay, he's going to jump down and hold the main stairs before he presumably goes up to open the logistics hatch. And you can see the silhouette. There is someone still through there. They need to be removed.
Well, into the final minute and 10 players still alive. It's going to be action-packed. Bullet, he opens things up with a kill over onto Highs, but Furia are in good position to respond. Blink and you miss it stuff. Who else but Fancy to find that final kill? It could have been any one of them with how quickly the kills were going in. The execute from FaZe just getting entirely dismantled.
One thing I do want to say is FaZe Clan are really solid when they can take control from multiple angles at once. But one thing that I have noticed that they've done a number of times in this game particularly that never seems to work well for them is peeking round breaches. You know, any wall that a thermite has exothermic'd open, you get someone from FaZe Clan who looks around the corner and they get taken down. So that just happened right at the very end there, the very final kill. Peeking into Jim, you immediately get taken down. And I think part of it is because the last couple of times that FaZe Clan went to visit that site and attack onto it, rather than the really confident, multi-dimensional approach that they went for back in round number 1, they tried to slightly change it so they had more players coming from any one direction than they did previously, and it meant that there were weaker parts of their attack and there were more strong parts of their attack if you're thinking it purely in the case of manpower. But it also meant that you don't have the potential for flanks. You can't catch people out in crossfires in the same way. So Furia are a lot more comfortable to sit in positions that are going to allow them to hold angles onto key avenues of ingress, which is exactly what we saw in that round at the very end. We've seen it in a couple of other rounds as well. So FaZe Clan they look to move in through a breach and they can't.
Well, things all mix up now. FaZe have a chance to redeem themselves on the defense. Furia, a very successful defensive side for them, coming out of the 4-2 split. Now they've got to try and take advantage of what we're still trying to figure out is if it is going to be or not an attacker-sided club. And with the bans, maybe not, given that Hibana has been removed, but still potential here for Furia to come away with a good couple of rounds. They're going to have quite a significant roam game to deal with. FaZe have gone all-out aggression here with a Alibi Vigil, Amaru, and Mozzie pick. That just smacks of sticking out there on the roam and being quite a nuisance. 2 P10 Ronies as well. We didn't really see a lot of the Roni from Furia, despite how much everybody loves that gun, particularly rare on that side. Fantasy as well. But FaZe are employing it today when they need it the most. It isn't going to work, though, for Bullet as he gets taken down there by Lender. Good little crossfire that was established. There was potential for something to be traded there as well, if needs be. Cameraman, he's going to be lit, making his way back down. Cyber, a cursory sort of spray of the ceiling just to see if he can land any damage. Furia haven't come away with this unscathed, though. They've been chipped down, but they haven't lost anybody yet.
Furia's composition here is very similar to what FaZe Clan had when they were attacking onto the same site, except they've decided to take a sledge instead of using Buck. That should give them more pressure that they can apply from kitchen if they get the floor open, because they've got nades that they can send down. And seeing that the kitchen hatch is being opened, you know, I suspect that that is a point of interest for them, unsurprisingly. See what it is that FaZe really have as their options here. Oh, this is another smoke barbed wire.
Well, now we know if FaZe lose, why. But for the meantime, Cameraman has been able to take down Fantasy, Cyber looking to try and move on through. Miracle will be there with the trade, though. Only 28 seconds left, so still a lot of work here for Furia to do. They are in an equal 3 versus 3. Everyone's seen a little bit of damage aside from Souls, though, which is probably ideal at this point. Keep your smoke nice and healthy. Allow him to toss out those Toxic Babe canisters, of which he's still got 2. So we can look to try and make something happen with that. Now, half of Church is going to be soft. Miracle gets a great wallbang in onto Souls. Astro with the direct trade. 4 seconds left. Astro, he stepped up in a big way this round. We asked him for a little bit of something, and he gave it to us.
Only so much the last player of Furia could do at the end there. But yeah, Astro, I mean, really popping off. He's a player who obviously we expect that from. And, you know, I won't forget the cameraman said a few weeks ago that when Astro's kind of up in 5th gear, he's not going to come down. And sometimes they struggle to keep him on the reins. But FaZe Clan really needed that round to get closer to evening things out with Furia. You could tell that the entire way they were set up was not really designed for them themselves to be solidly anchoring down on the site. The fact that the smoke brought the barbed wire, A, because none of the other operators they were bringing had barbed wire, but B, they didn't really need to lean onto a shield. They didn't require that because they weren't going to have someone just sat down in Armory, for example, waiting for people to come to them. And because they had those Surya gates up particularly, when they did decide to rotate back down to the site and set themselves up there, the Surya gates provided a huge deterrence from Furia actually being able to flood in, which meant that FaZe Clan still had quite good control over the angles that could be held, even though they hadn't necessarily set up for an anchor-centric defense. So that really helped facilitate them. Now they're going to be going to CCTV and Cash. We've got a number of C4s on the board. Cameraman's decided to come on Goyo. So one of the things that I said was Furia, when they were defending this site, they brought along the Bandit, and he was their C4 player, but Highs actually really struggled in that position just because of how vulnerable Lounge was. Oftentimes, you see a Goyo taking on that same position if you're going to have anyone playing down in Lounge. So if that is where Cameraman is going to go, I want to see how well defended that is. And the fact that you've got Astro, who will likely, I mean, he's here in CCTV right now, but I'm wondering if he's going to go to Garage Rafters, because that historically was where Wamai used to get played quite a bit when he first came into the rotation. And it made it harder to claim control of Garage Rafters because of the discs that you could use to protect yourself.
Well, the mirror window has been removed. It's become a more popular thing to do of late, and it does just make breaching a little bit more tricky. It's anything to make that wall just a little bit harder to try and open. You don't get quite a clean opening as you would if the mirror wasn't there. So Highs has deployed his Selmas and managed to get something happening there. We're going to see a bit of entry into the bottom of Garage as well, as an Exothermic is going to be deployed there. Highs looks like he's tempted just for a little bit of a walk on through. He could find himself in the site here. He gets a chance at Cameraman and he takes it. A lot of the players for the side of FaZe currently occupying construction, and that can be held, but Cyber with the swing. He's going to be able to take him down. There was still an Evil Eye camera inside of Cash, and that was probably providing him quite a lot of information there. The breach, not enough to get through, just a line of sight currently. Eyes made a very good attempt there, but it just didn't quite work out for him. You wonder if Fancy is going to try and do the same here, but the kills, they keep coming in for FaZe. Astro, he's going to be able to take down Fantasy. Soul's still on the Garage catwalk. He isn't seeing too much pressure, although Lender is going to be playing below. Rare now going to deploy an Exothermic onto the breach to try and make something happen there. Lender slowly but surely going to make his way up and does manage to catch Souls off guard. It now brings things back into an equal 3 versus 3. Astro still going to be playing at the top of Cash stairs. He's got Cyber close by in assistance. A lot of information available despite the smoke canisters. The Evil Eyes will be able to see on through. Astro going to be at the top now of those Cash stairs. Lender has made his way inside of the Garage. Miracle looks like he could be the next player to waltz his way on up Cash. Another smoke and a plant attempt here, at least bait for now, and Rare does have the time to do so. A swing from Lender is going to be successful, but again, it comes traded 1 for 1. Cyber now looking to make a bit of a swing as we are locked into that 1 versus 1. There's information for him as well. There's 11 seconds left. He could wait and force Rare to try and get the plant down here, or he could try and play aggressively onto this. Rare tries to swing, but Cyber's just better. The Vector there at the close range, always going to do the business.
Lender has been very impressive today in his reaction time. I think. Not that that's abnormal for him, but the way that he was able to just come up garage rafters and take that control. Unfortunately, the problem there for Furia is they only had 3 players left. So there wasn't really the kind of crossfire that you would look to do. I mean, when attacking onto CCTV and Cash, you kind of want those 3 angles being covered. Garage, the CCTV wall, which wasn't being watched at that point, and then from behind, whether that's pressure up red stairs or pressure through construction, whatever it may be. Now, the problem is by that point, Astro had really fortified red stairs, especially by using the discs, and he was watching it very keenly, and you didn't have a push coming in through construction. Now, while Highs had a really good go at just pushing straight into Cash a little bit earlier, he had been unsuccessful in gaining much beyond that first kill. So it meant the entire way through that round, FaZe Clan never really got forced into letting go of Cash control. So while, yes, it was great to see the way that Furia pushed into the site, you know, he had to try and bait because there was nothing, there was no force that Furia could procure to actually force FaZe Clan out of those positions into vulnerable positions that they could exploit and then win the round. FaZe Clan held on to Cash the entire way through, and as a direct result, Furia had very limited options.
It really reminded me of Herds walking down main stairs when we saw W7M play against NIP. With the way that Highs found himself inside of the site, but unable to really do much aside from gain 1 kill. And another situation where if his team had been in position to support, it would have been a very quick round, and Furia could have just taken everybody out on a rotation, got a plant down, and just held it in a post. It would have been very straightforward. But it's just that single player that, whilst they do manage to get an in, is just so drastically caught out of position. Now, we're seeing a kind of similar approach here from Furia as to what FaZe like to do at the moment, and that is to open that exterior construction wall and try and make something happen through there. Gives good access into logistics pretty much straight away. Fancy now going to think about at least opening the hatch and maybe dropping himself on in. Bullet all the way down in the basement as well. The drop does come in, and we do see Cameraman land his shots. He converts there with the shotgun, but eventually he will be traded on out. This round is explosive. Bullet, a player that was all the way downstairs, is that to make his way back up to site, shuts down Highs, and he's got live information on Rare. Rare knows that he's going to be caught out on the camera. Now, he could just walk up to that and melee it, and he will do just exactly that. Almost drops himself down the hatch accidentally. Going to provide himself a little bit of cover with a smoke canister. Is he going to try and attempt this plant? Rare now going to look to maybe confirm the kill, as it would be unusual to see a plant happen inside of this game, but he is going to start to go for it. Bullet has the intel, audio or camera, and he's going to look to try and aggress on through. He's going to miss his shots. The plant was so close to going down. Rare tries to swing, but it's not going to be enough. FaZe might be scrappy, but they're getting it done.
That was really such a game of cat and mouse. That round, it seemed to happen so fast. And of course, when you're left down in a 1 versus 1, especially one in which the final defender knows where you are, it is kind of a matter of time, and you have to get into playing the mind games. And there was nothing really to stop him from just pushing up at the end there. So FaZe Clan have not only met Furia's round count, but they have also overtaken it and haven't let go of any of their defending rounds so far. So now that they restart the cycle and they head back down into the basement, the question is going to be, can Furia adapt well enough to change the course of this game? Because if the answer there is no, then FaZe Clan are just going to finish this off on a 7-4 because they've had some pretty good defenses so far. Now, let's see. This time, they have decided to bring a shield. They actually have a pretty much an entirely different defensive lineup here, because this is very clearly not designed to just be a wild roam. You have a couple of operators who you would look to for that. I mean, Cameraman, Bullet, I assume, are going to be pretty decently off-site. Cyber will likely, you know, take the mantle in blue. But because you have the Maestro and the Smoke working together, you're going to have that more solid anchor down onto the site itself. So FaZe Clan aren't necessarily going to be in a position like they were back in round number 7, where they had to adapt very quickly and get back to the site to kind of scramble to deal with the fact that Furia got that opening kill.
FaZe well positioned to take this one now, especially with the way that the game has sort of descended. It's just gone into an all out and out frag fest with a lot of aggressive and explosive, not even late rounds. Like, that was a sort of middle to early round push that we saw previously from FURIA, so I wouldn't be surprised to see these rounds be quite quick fire. Fancy takes a big chunk of damage there as he's trying to assist in clearing out this roam game. FaZe happy to try and challenge onto it as well. It would, history would repeat itself as well if this did end in a 7-4, as that would have been the scoreline from the game inside of stage 1-2, so maybe, just maybe, we will see that happen, but FaZe are playing quite aggressively. Look at Cyber. Straight out. He didn't even know where he's looking. He's like, is he left? Is he right? I don't care. I'm getting out the window.
It's such a quintessential FaZe move as well, where, like, you're really feeling yourself, so you gotta go for the jump outs, you gotta go for the run outs, but, oh wait, I just realized I have no idea where the hell they are.
It's like a dog chasing his tail. This is what he's gonna do if he catches it.
Yeah,
he's just like, I just need to do it. It just is in Cyber's bones now. That's how this game is gonna go. But we are going to see FURIA not try and sort of play into that. They're looking to get things done here. There's hatches that need attention. Lender's going to start opening up the floor here inside of kitchen. There's going to be a C4 in the hands of cameraman, although I think it may have been placed out already. There we go. It is going to get exploded. It's not going to land anywhere significant. It's just going to give a bit more line of sight, arguably, and something maybe for Lender to peek through, as he did get a bit of a chance there at bullet, but the bar's not being too kind.
Well, there are no Selmas remaining and the kitchen hatch is not open. So even though they might be able to get some vertical angles down through the floor, sorry. The wall. They're not going to have the kitchen hatch drop as an option. So they're going to have to rely on the church wall. And it doesn't work. Okay, well, Rare is now also out of exothermic charges, so any option to breach is basically dead, and FURIA are going to have to try and brute force their way in. Not if Bullet has anything to say about it, though. So Fantasy is going to try and get his revenge. Cameraman's been DB-node elsewhere, and FURIA really are just going to get aggressive.
Fantasy's managed to find a couple of kills there from inside of Generator. The diffuser going to be cold, and Astro shutting down Lender as he tried to recover it. Fantasy's on for a quad kill here. There's so much intel available for Astro. He's actually picked up the kit and he's going to start to try and get it down. Miracle, he's going to attempt to swing but thinks better of it. The plant now being confirmed. We can start to have a messy gunfight. Astro, he gets a glimpse. He's got so many pings to be working from here, but has to take a moment to hit the reload. It's going to be the last time he needs to do that with the Alder. He can pretty much pre-fire all he likes. He's going to open himself up an angle. FURIA really aren't aggressing onto this. They don't want to take any chances. They know what Astro is going to be capable of here, and they know that they are getting pinged out every second. Finally, a swing from Miracle to shut things up. That's going to level things up here, 5-5.
And that really is exactly what it was. FURIA got to this kind of dire point where they had no options for what they were going to breach. You did actually hear the Selmas get put out, so they must have been impact tricked or, you know, whatever it was that FaZe Clan did to prevent it. But the same thing happened with the exothermic charge, right? So at that point, right, we've brought 2 hard breaches. We can't actually get any use out of either of them. We literally just have to force ourselves in. Now, it's a good thing that FURIA, of course, have really, really good mechanics. Like, they are great in gunfights. And they kind of took FaZe Clan a bit by surprise, I think, in those situations. And you could tell that they really targeted over towards Armory because it was only Astro who'd been hiding out behind the minibar in church who actually wasn't part of those fights. And at that point, of course, because FURIA had the man advantage with it just being Astro left, they could get the plant down quite comfortably. And it was very awkward point for Astro to try and attack onto, because you've either got to use this one narrow doorway or you have to open up that impact hole, which he did do, but that also leaves you vulnerable to potentially getting flanked as well. So, I mean, huge commendation for FURIA, honestly, for the fact that they were in that difficult position and just went, yeah, you screw it, made it work.
Well, there was no other option, as it would have put FaZe onto a match point, but FURIA managed to keep that from happening for a round. Now they will have an equal chance at getting to a match point and being a team to confirm a full 3 points here. The strange 6 pick at the start of this round was Rare going from Thermite into a Monty. Now, I'm a big proponent of the Monty. I think it's useful. It's got its time. It's got its place. We haven't seen FURIA bring or play a lot of Monty. And last time we also saw them really struggle to open up that breach, mainly because of the mirror window. It makes things so much more difficult, and it usually requires an exothermic to get the job done. Look how messy that is. It's a state. It's going to be very difficult, really, for Highs to start to fix that. And if he does want to fix it, that's going to be the entire hard breach potential of FURIA used just to open that single breach. So they're not going to have any alternate pressure. So this Monty really better be good here, because Rare's given up a lot to bring it.
It's just interesting as well, given that FURIA were actually pretty effective at taking control of Garage Rafters last time, which is what the Monty's obviously going to be used for, and it still wasn't enough to swing them the win before. Lender to be taken down by Cyber. Okay, that could be followed up by Miracle. All right, 2 kills. There's significantly weakening FaZe Clan. I get it. I get it. It's just the 2 players left on FaZe Clan now, so this Monty might end up being enough, as those 2 players are significantly spread out. I mean, where can Cameraman go? Bullet's going for this really huge rotation. If they look to plant now, he throws in the C4, but it's not going to be enough.
Still, the breach isn't able to be walked through, and that is going to be a big problem, and it's slowing FURIA down here. Now, the plant will be attempted here. Bullet has got a C4, and I would imagine he has a little bit of information. He's going to go for the C4 toss. It's going to land, but only do a little bit of damage to Rare, as the shield was just about in the way. Cameraman now looking to make his way on through, but Fantasy there with the rotation cover. He's going to get challenged twice here as Bullet starts to push on up and find himself some success. No, Fantasy actually took down Rare there. The plan went down. Bullet, what are you doing? You're crazy. He finds the final 2 kills. Such an unfortunate team kill. Loads of time to disable that diffuser. What a clutch there from Bullet.
Dude, everything I had planned to say has just been taken off the table by Bullet. And I guess oh my god, I suppose partly by Fantasy. I was also going to criticize Cameraman for doing the breach peak thing that I keep talking about, that FaZe are doing. I think that FURIA's approach to not, send Highs straight into Cash or whatever to risk losing him early, that was a good thing. And the fact that not only did they focus on sending the Monty up through into Garage, and then you can actually make the space for yourself in CCTV, but they also had a lot of pressure down in Lounge. And yeah, they lost Lender in that, but only after he got a kill himself, and it was Miracle who got a couple after that. So even though it was a bit scrappy down fighting in that downstairs area, it actually significantly weakened FaZe Clan enough to make this Monty push supremely viable. It was only really when it came to the fights that were happening on the breach that it kind of swung. And it does go back to what we were saying before, that I think that would maybe have not necessarily been such a risk had the breach been a lot cleaner in the first place. If FURIA could have A, just walked straight on through, and B, had a much easier time of holding on to the breach, then I'm not entirely sure that FaZe Clan would have had such a fortuitous outcome of that round.
The problem wasn't the Monty, the problem was the ace. You need to change the ace out for the Thermite, then you have the smokes as well, and all of a sudden that just works a whole lot better. But, as it stands, Bullet, a player that has really started to perform over the last couple of weeks, especially in contrast to sort of stage 1. Always a player that sits on reasonable stats, but has just been absolutely popping off. I think having been given the room, seeing as, Astro and Cyber have maybe been a little bit more quiet. I mean, everybody sits on 9 or 10 kills inside of this round, but that clutch really has to stick out, and it isn't the first one that he's had today. So, big performance there. A chance now for FaZe to walk away with a full 3 points here out of this one and cement themselves at the top of the leaderboard for the time being. We'll see how that transpires, how it starts to move through. Highs has got the intel there that a C4 was being attempted. He's going to be able to ping out Bullet there as he retreats on his way back down Oil Pit.
FURIA, this is their opportunity to take this to overtime. And you know what? I think this game deserves an overtime.
I would agree.
Yeah, I'm going to put it straight out there. Nice kill from Cameraman to open things up onto Fantasy. This is the same defending approach that FaZe Clan did the first time that they defended this site. So they're back to the barbed wire smoke, back to the vigil, back to the alibi. Not going to be... well, actually, it's not exactly the same because they had a FURIA that first time. And this time they don't. They've got Miro, I think is the change. Heiss is going to get his revenge as he takes Bullet down. And there's still plenty of time here, but the decision here, if you're FURIA, is do you go for the really thorough clear? I mean, this is part of the job that Miracle's doing, but... I mean, I don't think he's being droned in. I think he's just trying to peek in around the doors.
Well, he's going to get taken out. Cameraman with his second kill. This isn't looking ideal here for FURIA as Lender's going to fall as well. This is such a disjointed push. We've got players pushing every angle and Souls from inside of the site. The SMG-11, it's going to find him too. Rare now in a very tricky spot. Finds himself the first of many required. Cyber and Souls have been chunked down. He's going to be able to open up the hatch. Isn't going to be successfully stopped. Can try and work on this, but the Toxic Babe canisters to try and wade through. Cyber's just going to walk up and hit him with that impact grenade. No problem whatsoever. FaZe, they're going to take the win here over FURIA.
Yo, I mean, why impact trick a hatch when you can impact trick a person? Am I right?
Exactly.
It was a great game, and there was a lot of changes done by each team in terms of their approaches. Some worked, some didn't. However, I think we expected this to be quite close regardless, and it's interesting to see FaZe's strengths look as if they've changed in this game versus FURIA compared to how we saw them play against W7M the other day. They had a much tougher time when they were on the attack, but really brought it back on the defense, only allowing FURIA